Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at several things that are common to all the synthesizers across SynthSquad and Fuser. We're going to be covering preferences, MIDI learn, patch browsing and the modulation system. One of the first things you're going to want to do after previewing a few presets is set up each synth's preferences. The preferences panel can be opened using this wrench icon here. The first preferences to set are the oversampling preferences. Oversampling improves the quality of the synth's output by reducing aliasing. There are two preferences here. The first is real time, and this is what you hear when you play the synth. You can oversample up to 8 times, but there is a cost of CPU, so the number you set here really depends on your CPU power. I'm going to set real time to 2. The render setting applies oversampling when you export audio from your host, or use its freeze function. Higher settings here will result in longer export times. I normally set this all the way up to 8. The next settings are the performance controls. There are 2 performance controls that are assigned to every patch in every synth. If you use a MIDI keyboard controller, you're probably going to want to set Performance 1 to the modulation wheel. Performance 2 is up to you, but I normally set it to channel pressure, which is aftertouch. I'm then going to save these as the defaults and apply to close the preferences. Now, if I load a patch in Cypher and play a note and apply the mod wheel on my controller or the aftertouch, you can hear the results of the Performance 1 and Performance 2 assignments. You'll need to go through the same preferences for each of the synths. Fuser has a slightly larger preferences panel. It has preferences for the macro controls, which are the 8 knobs you see up here, and these can be set to control anything within Fuser. I've got them set up to respond to the 8 knobs on my controller here. Another way to set up your controller preferences is via the MIDI Learn button. The advantage of doing it this way is that you can take control of just about any knob, slider or button on the interface. Once this is done, opening the Preferences panel and clicking Save as Default will make sure that all your assignments are remembered at startup. Let's see how that works. This preset has 2 parts, the pad and the arpeggio. They're on slots 2 and 3, so I'm going to assign my MIDI controller to control the volume of each. All I do is click on the required parameter and move my MIDI controller. Click MIDI Learn off and I can control them via my controller. Don't forget, you can go back to the Preferences panel and save as default if you want these saved permanently. Now let's take a look at patch browsing. There are 2 ways to patch browse. The first and quickest way is to use this drop-down menu here. All the patches are categorized, and when you come to save a patch, if you use the abbreviations seen here, your patch will automatically appear in the correct drop-down submenu. I can use these left and right arrows to scroll through patches. The second way of browsing patches is using the browser. This gives us a little more flexibility. We can use the search function, and we can use these side panels to browse by author or by style. One of the main reasons for using the browser is that we can audition patches without loading them. This means you can try out new patches mid-song, but if you don't find anything you prefer to what you've got already, you can just hit the cancel button and you'll go back to the previously loaded preset. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the modulation system. The modulation system's been designed to be both easy to use and very flexible. At the top of each synth, we've got 8 mod slots. Each mod slot has a source, which you can see written at the top of the slot. If we click on this, we'll get a drop-down menu that allows us to pick new sources. Let's try it out. I'm going to pick this mod slot here, which already has LFO1 assigned as the source. I can tell it's not currently being used because it's a darker shade than some of the other mod slots which are being used. If I select this mod slot, I can now apply LFO1 to any of the destinations or controls that you currently see in green. Let's apply some LFO to the filter cutoff. By hovering over the outer green ring of the filter cutoff here, I can adjust the amount of modulation, both positive and negative, by dragging up and down. Faders are very similar, just drag up and down in the green area. Now I can carry on and apply the LFO to as many parameters as I want. By simply rolling over a mod slot, I can instantly see exactly what that modulation source is affecting by looking for the yellow colour on each parameter. Something else I might want to do is apply the LFO only via the modulation wheel. This is a classic vibrato trick, and we can achieve this by clicking in the lower half of the mod slot. We get another menu. If I select Mod Plus, the LFO will be applied in varying amounts when I raise my mod wheel. The last trick I'm going to show you is something called Load to Mod Slot. I've loaded a patch here, and I'm going to make a variation patch of it. I'm going to change quite a few parameters. Okay, that's suitably different from the original patch. I'm going to save this as vibing out 2. And then I'm going to reload the original patch. Here's where Load to Mod Slot comes in. If I enable this little icon here, I've enabled the Load to Mod Slot facility. And what this allows me to do is load a patch. But instead of loading a patch in the normal way, it'll load the patch as modulation destinations according to the currently selected slot. The easiest way to explain it is to demonstrate it. I'm going to select the Performance 1 mod slot, which is my mod wheel. I'm going to browse for my Vibing Out 2 patch. What's happened here is that all the changes I made to our original patch have been loaded in as modulation assignments to Performance 1. You can see the resonance, the filter, the frequency modulation. And what this means is when I play my patch, and apply the modulation wheel, it morphs from the first patch to the second. This can be used for some completely wild effects, especially when you experiment with modulation sources and different patches. That's it for this video. I hope it's been useful.